welcome to Plus Sports, the show where we give a different look at sports. Here is where we look at the stories of athletes who not only amaze but also inspire. I'm Patricia Bermudez-Hizon. We will give you not just the latest in the sporting world, but also the stories behind the athletes' struggles, victories, and motivation. We go beyond the stats as we celebrate the great athletic feats with you. With that said, we go straight into some big stories coming from the ongoing Olympic Games on our segment, Take on Tokyo. With the Olympics in full swing, that also means that the Philippines will have another group of athletes competing at the Games today. The game began with skateboarder Margielyn Didal competing in the skateboarding women's street event. After a strong start, Didal would enter the finals after finishing in the top 8 before settling for 7th place with a score of 7.52. Now, her journey in the Tokyo Olympics may have ended here, but it was still a great run for the Asian Games and SEA Games gold medalist in skateboarding's debut as a sport in the Olympics. On a side note, it would be interesting to see how her feat at the Olympics would propel the sport to greater heights, especially amongst younger children here in our country. The eventual gold winner or gold medal winner in the women's Olympic street skateboarding event in Tokyo is Japan's 13-year-old Momiji Nishia, who bested an amazing field of skateboarders, including 7-time X Games medalist Alexis Sablon from the US, who started skateboarding at the age of 10. I can see how Margie Didal can really influence the next generation of young athletes and really push the sport in this country. Now, we here at Plus Network are really proud of Didal. Another Filipino athlete who saw action today is Carlo Paalam, who defeated Ireland's Brendan Irvine in the round of 32 match in the men's flyweight division. The 4 of the 5 judges gave him the bout. Paalam has won at every level as an amateur boxer, winning a gold medal at the flyweight in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games and a bronze medal in the 2018 Asian Games in the same division. Now, he has a chance to add an Olympic medal to his growing resume. Growing up in Bukidnon, Paalam has experienced a lot of hardships on his way to becoming a boxer. He has experience working as a scavenger at a landfill back when he was a child before falling in love with the sport of boxing and showcasing his talent. He's certainly come a long way from his humble beginnings, and far from his last name, we won't be saying goodbye or paalam to him anytime soon, as he looks to make noise at the Tokyo Olympics. Aside from Paalam, Nesthy Petecio returned today to compete in the women's featherweight division against Lin Yuting of Chinese Taipei, the top seed in her group. Even though she came in as the underdog, Petecio proved to be the better fighter at the end of their entertaining bout, winning via split decision 3-2 to advance to the quarterfinals. And with that, her chances of winning a medal also increases. What a great day for Philippine boxing. And finally, of the 19 Filipino Olympians in Tokyo, only one of them is battle-tested. That is veteran Heidelin Diaz. The 2016 Rio Olympic silver medalist is set to compete in the women's 55-kilogram class later tonight. At this point, everyone is familiar with her humble beginnings in Zamboanga City and her rise as one of the country's best bets for an Olympic gold medal. When she steps inside the Tokyo International Forum later, it will be Diaz's 4th straight Olympic competition after previously taking part in Beijing in 2008, London in 2012, and in Rio in 2016. And this time, she is aiming for no less than that gold medal. These are the Filipino athletes who will carry the country's hopes on their shoulders and seek Olympic glory for the country. But even before they competed at the Games, they are already victorious in life because of the various struggles they have had to overcome. In full swing, the Olympics medals have also started coming in. Now let's take a look at our medal tally just before the events began today. Now, China was leading all countries so far with 6 golds and 11 total medals, with host country Japan running second with 5 golds and 6 total medals. The United States, which topped the medal table at the Rio Olympics, is third with 4 golds and 10 medals, while South Korea is fourth with 2 golds and 5 medals. Sitting at fifth place is Russia, whose athletes are playing under the Russian Olympic Committee flag, and they have 1 gold and 7 total medals. Meanwhile, Italy, which ranks sixth with 1 gold and 5 total medals, is still going at it. Australia and France are tied at 7th with 1 gold and 3 total medals, while Hungary and Tunisia share the 9th spot with 1 gold and 2 total medals, and a lot of historical feats behind those stories. So there's plenty of Olympic action yesterday, and there should be plenty more today, of course, but that is it for now in this loaded edition of Take on Tokyo. While hundreds of Japanese athletes are currently representing their country at home, at the Olympics, there's another one making history all the way in the United States, outside the Olympics. Baseball has long been considered as America's national pastime, but right now it is LA Angels star player Shohei Ohtani, who is the biggest name in the sport. This early in his career, he is already being compared to some of the all-time baseball greats, and today we will focus on Showtime Shohei Ohtani right here on Athlete's Feet. Japan is a country that loves baseball, and it wasn't long before Ohtani's talent stood out. In fact, he was so good that he already has been considered moving to the major leagues in the United States just after high school, with several MLB teams trying to get his services at that young age. Now, in the end, he decided to stay in his native Japan for a few years, playing for the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters, which saw him become a champion, an MVP, and an all-star. But even as he dominated the domestic league, it was clear that he was meant to play in the major league, which he finally did in 2018 for the LA Angels. After winning the American League Rookie of the Year award, he got better and better and was named an all-star this season. Making this feat even more special is that Ohtani is the first player in Major League Baseball history to be selected as an all-star as both a pitcher and a position player. This showcases the truly unique skills set that he has and why he is baseball's brightest star right now. Ohtani speaks little English, and there are those who question his status as the fact of the sport, but even early on, his talent remains undeniable and is the reason why he is garnering comparisons to some of the greatest baseball players of all time. Ohtani's story proves that great talent cannot be denied and will shine no matter what, and should serve as an inspiration to those who are talented at what they do. Stay tuned for more athletes and their incredible achievements that we will continue to feature right here on Athlete's Feet. In the sporting world, it usually takes an athlete years before they can establish themselves and gain consideration as being among the best in their sport. But just a few days ago, a 12-year-old, let me say that again, a 12-year-old played in the Tokyo Olympics, making her the youngest Olympian in these games and one of the youngest of all time. Do you remember what you guys were doing at 12 years old? Let me just look back a little bit. That young girl is Syrian table tennis player Hend Zaza. And even though her feat of being the youngest Olympian in Tokyo is an amazing one, the story of how she got there is just as incredible. Today, we will focus on Hend Zaza and her story in women in sports. Zaza actually lost in her preliminary match at the Olympics and has bowed out of the medal race. But considering what she's been through, just making it to the games is an amazing accomplishment. Not only is Zaza the youngest to compete in Tokyo, but she is also becoming or has become the first Syrian to compete in table tennis at the Olympics through qualification. Zaza grew up in the city of Hama in a country that is torn apart by a civil war. Because of concerns over her safety, she was unable to participate in a lot of tournaments heading to the Olympics and had to overcome power outages and lack of proper equipment. But in spite of all of these obstacles, the 12-year-old made it to Tokyo and is competing with the best players in the world in her sport. And that feels like a victory, even if she in her match ended in a loss. In an interview, Zaza encouraged others to fight for their dreams and try hard, regardless of the difficulties they are having, because they will reach their goals. Thank you for being an inspiration at such a young age, Hend Zaza. What a story. And that is your daily dose of women in sports. From table tennis, we move back to basketball. The NBA may be in its off season now, but Olympic basketball has just started, and there were some shocking results. Meantime, the PBA just ended its second week with a triple header that saw a meeting of rivals and one clutch game winner. Here's everything you need to know about basketball on Inbound. Team USA began the defense of their gold medal in Tokyo last night, but it got off on the wrong foot as they suffered a stunning loss to France, which is their first loss on the Olympic stage in a long time. We'll talk about the Olympic basketball results right here on our NBA recap. Since finishing with a bronze medal in 2004, the United States has been on a quest for redemption in men's basketball, winning the gold in the next 3 Olympics. But there have been some signs that the rest of the world is catching up, and we've talked about that a lot here on Plus Sports. And closing the gap between them and the Americans is the rest of the world. Their 83-76 loss to France is another proof of that. Led by NBA players Ivan Fournier and Rudy Gobert, as well as former NBA players Nando De Colo, France was able to erase the United States lead in the third quarter and then hold them off in the final seconds. They also played tremendous defense on Team USA's Kevin Durant, a 2-time NBA champion and finals MVP during his time with the Golden State Warriors. Now, after the game, Fournier said that he believes that France cannot beat the US-based team on individual talent, but they can do it as a team, which is exactly what they proved. Now, there's a chance that Team USA could still recover from this loss. Of course, they're Team USA and win a gold. But last night's loss to France proved that the world is catching up indeed, and that the American dominance in Olympic men's basketball is not a foregone conclusion like it once was. For me, that actually makes it even more exciting. But we are bringing in someone right now, our resident basketball analyst and co-host of Plus Network's Pick a Side on Kumu, to talk to us about this particular game. Juan Banal, thanks so much for joining us on Inbound. I'm so glad that you're here, Juan, because we have a lot to talk about. Did you get to watch that game? Of course you did.
Yes, I did. Thank you for having me on the show. It's exciting always to talk about basketball, and to have it with you, it's even more exciting.
All right, Juan. After the final buzzer sounded, Team France barely celebrated. If you caught that last part, some say that beating Team USA wasn't really a surprise to them. Was that also your insight and your input on that?
Well, I would say I think it's keeping your eyes on the prize for France. And at the end of the day, all of this will not amount to anything if you don't win a medal, let alone a gold medal. And if getting there is the road to getting there is beating the US, then the job is just merely done. And so I think France is doing and making the right decisions to keep their focus on that gold medal rather than celebrating little victories.
Let's talk about what was not working for Team USA, especially when France went on that 16-2 tear to close the game. And that was after Team USA was leading at 7 with, I think, just 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. So what were the things that you thought were missing?
I think having a stacked lineup in the U.S., every single player that's in the U.S. that is a possible franchise player. And because that's the case, their mentality is, if things are not going our way as a team, I'll take matters into my own hands. And I think they depended a lot on their outside shooting, trying to bridge that gap and trying to bring down that lead. It's more of their panic button, and eventually that spilled over and exploited the other holes in their offense, which having France working well together as a team defensively has really set the tone and set the pace control the entire game.
Talking about Team USA, Fournier said in an interview that the Team USA is better individually, but they can be beaten as a team. And that's been proven in the last couple of years. And there's been many, many discussions and debates on that. Now, Coach Pop acknowledges that they have to work like everyone else. And perhaps after that, they have to work harder now, more than everybody else. But how do you change all that and address it immediately in the hopes of securing that gold in Tokyo?
Well, I think the soonest that they can bounce back, you have to understand that the stint of the U.S. team in Tokyo is very short. It's not a long tournament. And so having to gel at the quickest possible time, they have to learn and pick up from all the mistakes that they've committed. And you have to understand that teams like France have been playing together since they were teenagers, unlike Team USA that have really picked up talent from everywhere. So the soonest that they can bounce back and address those little concerns, then the soonest that they can hopefully be in a position to win the gold.
All right. Well, Team USA lost for only the sixth time in 144 games at the Olympics. And that's Olympics all time. And they broke a 25-game Olympic winning streak. But do you think a gold is still very, very possible?
I think it is. It's not far from happening. Like I said, on paper, they are indeed the most talented team. It's all a matter of Greg Popovich being able to bring that team together and cohesively making sure that you don't need superstars in this team. You need role players because everyone is a superstar. So being able to find that right formula, because the rest of the country, the rest of the world actually have found that formula. And if USA can't figure that out, then that gold might slip away.
It's exciting, and we appreciate you joining us. That means we're going to be calling on you again for our next episodes of Plus Sports. Thanks so much. That is Juan Banal. In other Olympics men's basketball news, Czech Republic also scored an opening day victory over Iran, while Italy defeated Germany and Australia had a blowout win over Nigeria. If the results of the first night of action are any indication, it's safe to say that it's going to be an interesting race for that gold medal this time in Tokyo. And that's all the time we have for our NBA recap. But right now we're shifting gears. While teams are starting to prepare for Olympic basketball, the PBA has just started a new one as the 2021 Philippine Cup is into its second week. Let's take a look at the latest results in our PBA recap. In the opening game, the San Miguel Bearmen survived the Northport Batang Pier thanks to Arwin Santos's clutch jumper, which gave them a narrow 88-86 win. CJ Perez led the Bearmen with 18 points, while Santos finished with 17, as two other Bearmen also ended up in double figures. The Batang Pier, meanwhile, were led by big man Greg Slaughter, who finished with 23 points in his first game with his new team. Meanwhile, the Magnolia Hotshots Pambansang Manok emerged victorious in the latest edition of the Manila Clasico, defeating Barangay Ginebra San Miguel 89-79. The tandem of Paul Lee and Ian Sangalang finished with 22 points and 17 points respectively to turn back a hard-fighting Ginebra side, which was led by Stanley Pringle's 22 points. In the third game, the NLEX Road Warriors evened their record to 2-2 yesterday with a comfortable victory over the still winless Terra Firma Jeep, 108-94. Kevin Alas fired 21 points, while JR Kenyahan added 19 points to lead 5 Road Warriors players in double figures. Terra Firma, meanwhile, was led by Joshua Munzon's 24-point output. The Philippine Cup continues on Wednesday with a triple header. In the first game, San Miguel looks to keep their winning run going when they face off against the Blackwater Bossing. In the second game, the Rain or Shine Alasso Painters staked their unbeaten 3-0 record against the Alaska Aces, which currently have a 1-2 record. And in the third game, the Meralco Bolts look to bounce back from their first loss of the conference when they battle the 1-2 Phoenix Super LPG Fuel Masters. Now, before we go, we want to go back to the Olympics, but that is it for now on our Inbound. At the Tokyo Olympic Games, there are more Filipino athletes who are set to compete. Aside from Margielyn Didal, we also had our boxers taking on the ring to represent flag and country. And later tonight, our highly anticipated medal bet, Heidelin Diaz, finally competes in the women's 55 kilogram event. Let's all support our athletes competing today and in the coming days as they strive for Olympic glory. A lot of people are asking how they can continue to watch the games, and some of them are already watching on Signal TV5 and on Smart GigaFest and listening to updates from our friends on Radio Pilipinas. But of course, for more sports stories here and abroad that not only inform but also inspire you, catch Plus Sports every day on Plus Network. That's it for us here at Plus Sports. I'm Patricia Bermudez-Hizon. Thanks so much for watching.